In 2015, Ebby Steppach was sexually assaulted at a party, and disappeared days later. Her car was found abandoned in a city park. Almost 3 years later, her remains were discovered in the same park. Who killed Ebby, and why did it take so long to find her body? I apologize in advance for any formatting errors. This case hasn't been discussed on this sub in about a year, but it's one I think about often, so I wanted to bring it back up again. I moved to Little Rock in the summer of 2015 and remember seeing Ebby's missing posters everywhere that fall. Please post your thoughts and theories below. Case background and Ebby's disappearance. Ebby Steppach was born on March 31, 1997, and lived in Little Rock, Arkansas with her mom and stepdad, Lori and Michael Jernigan, and 2 siblings, Trevor and Harris. Ebby was known as an outgoing and bubbly teen, who was close to her family and friends. In 2015, she was 18 years old, 110 pounds, with blonde hair, and only a little over 5 feet tall. Ebby was going through a tumultuous time in her senior year, as many teens do. Ebby met some reportedly disreputable people through her summer job at the Foot Locker in McCain Mall. Her parents did not approve of her newest boyfriend, who attended the public high school Central High. She abruptly decided to switch to Central after attending private school all her life. Edit: Ebby attended Lisa Academy, which is a charter school, not a private school. In addition, Ebby moved out of her parents' house and into her older brother, Trevor's home. She crashed with friends frequently as well. In early fall, Lori and Michael began receiving calls from the high school reporting Ebby's truancy. However, they wanted to encourage her independence, and didn't confront her. On the morning of Wednesday, October 21, 2015, Ebby skipped school, telling her friend Danielle she wanted to avoid all the drama. Danielle didn't know what she meant. Ebby stayed with Danielle and her family for the remainder of the week. On Friday, Ebby went to a party while Danielle stayed home because she didn't know anyone who would be there. It was at this party that Ebby claimed to have been raped by 4 men, who also recorded the act. The next day, Ebby told her stepfather Michael about the rape, and they agreed to meet at the police station later to report it. However, that never happened. Ebby spent that Saturday holed up in bed at her grandparents' home, sleeping and watching SpongeBob SquarePants. Around 8 p.m., she told her grandmother Peggy she was leaving to meet up with Michael, but that she would be back and planned to spend the night there. That was the last time anyone in Ebby's family saw her. Peggy and Michael called Ebby several times during the night without response. Ebby's cell phone records show that she made 2 calls to the Little Rock Police Department that night, each about a minute long. The LRPD claimed to have no record of these calls. According to private investigator Monty Vickers, Ebby also sent texts to her alleged rapists, threatening to go to the police with her claims. Her stepdad Michael says thinks she may have gone out to confront her rapists. The last person to hear from Ebby was her brother, Trevor, on Sunday, October 25. Ebby called him, sounding panicked and disoriented. She said she was outside his house, but when he went outside, she wasn't there. She was unable to tell him who she was with or where she was. Ebby said, "I'm fucked up," and then hung up. No one heard from or saw Ebby again. Ebby's family tried to file a missing person report, but was told by police they had to wait at least 12 hours. Ebby's car is discovered. On October 28, 3 days after Ebby's last contact with her brother, a security guard at Chalamont Park in West Little Rock reported an abandoned vehicle in the parking lot. It wasn't until October 30 that officers went to the park and identified the car as Ebby's. The battery was dead, gas tank empty, and keys were left in the ignition. Many personal items were strewn about the car, including Ebby's phone, wallet and contact lenses. The interior of the car and many of Ebby's belongings were water damaged when they got the car back, Lori and Michael claim, because the LRPD had left the trunk open during a heavy rainstorm. The search for Ebby and allegations of police mishandling. From the very beginning of the missing person investigation, Lori and Michael Jernigan claim that the LRPD conducted incredibly shoddy work. They hired private investigator Monty Vickers to see what he could find out. In addition to the mishandling of the car evidence and loss of the LRPD's call records, Vickers discovered many other holes in the investigation. When Vickers reached out to the security guard at Chalamont Park, he claimed it was the first time he'd been contacted about the case. Ebby's friend Danielle, whom she had been staying with, was never contacted by police either. Lori Jernigan also claims that police refused to check cell tower pings from Ebby's phone. LRPD treated the case as a runaway situation for almost 8 months, and by the time federal investigators got involved in 2016, crucial evidence had been lost. On November 3, 2015, a friend of Ebby's and her mother went to the park to look around. They called 911 when the mother said she smelled decomposition. Police arrived over an hour later and after a quick inspection, told her it was sewage. It wasn't until November 2016, almost a year after Ebby disappeared, that police formally searched the Chalamont Park area, turning up no further clues. The 4 men implicated in her rape were interviewed by police, but there have been no formal searches of their cell phones for further evidence. Their names, obviously, have not been released. In 2017, the case was reassigned to the LRPD's homicide unit, who brought cadaver dogs to the park to search for clues. Nothing was found. In 2018, Lori Jernigan filed a complaint with the LRPD that certain officers had sent her threatening text messages, yelled at her and refused to provide her with updates early on in the case. An internal investigation was conducted, which yielded insufficient evidence to prove her claims. In May 2018, the FBI and the LRPD's Cold Case Unit, led by experienced detective Tommy Hudson, teamed up with Little Rock's Public Works to begin excavating drainage pipes at Chalamont Park. Sadly, this time Ebby's remains were finally found. They were only 60 feet away from where her car had been abandoned. A preliminary cause of death has been determined but not publicly released. As of today, the case is still open and unsolved. Discussion. There have been a lot of rumors swirling about why this case has not been solved yet. I have seen many comments suggesting that one of the alleged rapists is somehow related to an LRPD officer, who is trying to cover up the crime. I am more likely to think the delays and mishandling of evidence can be chalked up to incompetence and indifference, although anything is possible. However, it does seem highly coincidental that she disappeared/was murdered right after being sexually assaulted and had threatened to report it. It's also unclear why Ebby's remains weren't located for 3 years, when multiple searches had taken place in the vicinity, even with a cadaver dog. Edit. Someone commented that old remains can be hard for cadaver dogs to detect. That still begs the question why no one thoroughly searched the area, with or without dogs, in November 2015 when Ebby's friend and her mom smelled decomposition in the park. I tried to keep this write-up from getting too long, so didn't include every single detail I read. Feel free to read more at the resources below, and please let me know what you think about this case.
This one is so bizarre. You would think talking to Danielle and looking into the cell phone pings are 2 of the first things they'd do. I hope the family gets justice eventually.
Cadaver dogs are much less likely to find remains if they're not fresh. Working dogs also take non-verbal clues from their handlers. If the police weren't interested, or perhaps not motivating the dogs well, they are also less likely to find anything.
The Vanished did a great story on this. She mentioned that someone had seen the car possibly while Ebby was there alive. I think a young woman was seen speaking with a young man by the park security. He would have had dash camera footage, but the police waited too long to subpoena the evidence, and it was long since erased. If I remember correctly, the original officer on the case was texting Ebby's mom on her private cell, and it was somewhat abusive and inappropriate. Later, they basically admitted that the beginnings of the case were mishandled, without actually admitting it, of course. The family's private investigator had a bigger, more thorough file than the police. The whole thing stinks to high heaven.
Yet by the time the PI was hired and went to talk to the security guard at Chalamont Park, footage from his car's dash cam that may have provided evidence had been erased. The security guard said he had seen Ebby there, with a couple of young men, multiple times in the week or 2 leading up to her disappearance.
The LRPD officer who responded when my home was broken into and I was sexually assaulted told me that I'd made a bad choice and kept calling my rapist Romeo.
I don't normally jump to this, but given the seriously strange and incompetent-sounding turns of this case, it really does sound like Ebby's killer is affiliated with the police or someone high up. Ugh, makes me sick.
I know this is the recap of everything Op just said, but I really want to emphasize a few key points, because I 100% consider the evidence of police sabotage to be damning. Ebby's body was found May 2018 in a storm drain right by where her car was found. A friend had repeatedly told the police that they needed to check the park, where the car was found, because she could smell decomposition. Her first phone call was made in October 2015, days after Ebby went missing. The police did not even go to the park to look at her car until 3 days later. Foley said she waited about an hour at the park before any law enforcement official arrived. Officers shined flashlights into the drainage pipe. When they returned to her car, they told her she was smelling sewage. Foley said she called police at least 3 times before connecting with anyone there, and later left phone messages for the investigator. The police insisted that the family had to wait 12 hours to file a missing persons report, even though we all know that is neither required nor compliant with standard protocol. The police spent 8 months doing nothing, having concluded, based on literally nothing, she had run away. A security guard at the park reported an abandoned car in the parking lot October 28, but police waited 2 days to go investigate. This was in addition to the repeated phone calls from the family friend. For me, the behavior of law enforcement is far, far beyond incompetence. In addition to them leaving the trunk of her car open during a thunderstorm, the police appear to have actively sabotaged this investigation at every single opportunity. There is zero explanation or justification for the shoddiness of their work. I don't think I can ever be convinced to think less of American police than I already do, but even as incompetent as I consider them to be, bungling this case so badly required active effort. 1 or 2 missteps is to be expected, even from the best departments. This is not just 1 or 2 missteps, it's tripping head over heels down 3 flights of stairs.
I'm a cadaver dog handler and I looked fairly extensively into this case a couple of years ago when I had more time to read it due to other circumstances. I recall a couple of issues. The biggest one was that incident base, the gathering, staging area for the search teams, looked like it was right by the drain opening where she was eventually located. That's a really tough situation for canines to be effective in, because you generally don't cue them to work until you're a little outside of IB, plus there are a million distractions at IB that can confuse alerts, and there's also a safety issue since this was right in a parking lot. IB tends to be really hectic for everyone, which usually doesn't matter as it's typically established outside the search area, but this time it wasn't and that can cause problems for the dogs. Note that this was likely not anyone's fault, it was a sensible place to stage a search from. Regarding the initial reports of decomp that weren't followed up on, I won't defend that decision necessarily, but I will say that it's very common for people to misidentify the odor of decomposition, especially outdoors and when submerged in water. People always say it's so distinctive, but in my experience it really isn't. It can be, but add a bit of water, some vegetation, etc., and the average human nose can't tell the difference between that and a dead raccoon or muskrat or even just some stinky stagnant water. I think they probably should have taken this concerns more seriously given the context, but I've also seen video of where she was found and I can't blame them for missing her. It doesn't look like somewhere you could shove a body. I'm sure Sherlock Holmes would have put it together, but in reality it's easy to miss things like that and searches are very complex involving tons of factors. It's just easier to miss a body than people think, even if investigators do everything right. We don't like it any more than you do.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helps me be able to bring you more interesting mysteries. So what do you think happened to Ebby? Was there a cover-up? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Cover up? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Cover up?